The rain-slicked streets of New York City gleamed under the neon glow, but I was drowning in the shadows of my own heart. I stood outside the bar, watching him through the fogged-up window, his laughter cutting through the noise like a blade. Ethan Caldwell, the man who owned every piece of me, was celebrating the night before his wedding, and I wasn't the one he'd be marrying. My name is Julian Harper, and for 2 years, I was Ethan's secret. We met in a Brooklyn dive bar, where I was tending bar and he was nursing a whiskey, his tie loosened and his smile dangerous. He was a corporate lawyer, all sharp suits and sharper ambition, while I was the artist with paint-stained hands and a knack for trouble. That night, he leaned across the counter, his green eyes locking onto mine, and said, "You look like someone who could ruin my life." I laughed, not knowing I'd spend the next 2 years proving him right. Our affair was a wildfire, reckless, consuming, hidden. Ethan's world was one of glass towers and old money, where appearances were everything. He was engaged to Claire Winston, the heiress whose family name opened doors Ethan needed to climb. But when we were together, in stolen moments in my cramped apartment or late-night walks along the Hudson, he was mine. He'd whisper promises against my skin, his hands tracing dreams we both knew could never survive the daylight. One day, "Julian," he'd say, "I'll be brave enough." But that day never came. Now, I stood outside that bar, my breath fogging in the October chill, watching Ethan raise a glass with his groomsmen. Claire was there, radiant in a white dress that screamed rehearsal dinner, her hand possessive on his arm. My chest ached, not just from jealousy, but from the weight of knowing I'd always be the shadow in his life. I'd been spoiled by his love lavished with secret weekends, handwritten notes tucked into my sketchbooks, and moments so tender they felt like they could rewrite the world. But secrets don't last, and I was done being his. I turned to leave, my boots splashing in a puddle, when I heard the door swing open behind me. "Julian." Ethan's voice was a desperate chord, pulling me back. I didn't turn around. If I did, I'd break. "Don't," I said, my voice low, barely steady. "Go back to your life, Ethan." He grabbed my wrist, spinning me to face him. His face was a storm of guilt and need, his tie askew, his hair damp from the rain. "You can't just walk away," he said, his voice cracking. "Not now. Not like this." I yanked my hand free, my heart pounding. "You're getting married tomorrow. What am I supposed to do? Wait in the wings forever?" His jaw tightened, and for a moment, I thought he'd say the words that could unravel everything. But he didn't. He never did. Instead, he stepped closer, his breath warm against my cheek. "I love you," he whispered, like it was a confession and a curse. "You know that. Then why isn't it enough?" I shot back, my voice breaking. The rain blurred my vision, or maybe it was tears. I didn't wait for an answer. I turned and walked into the night, leaving him standing there, the man who'd made me feel like everything and nothing all at once. The next morning, I was gone. Not just from Ethan's life, but from New York entirely. I packed a single bag, left my apartment keys on the counter, and caught a bus to nowhere. Well, not nowhere, Asheville, North Carolina, a place I'd heard about in passing, where artists could disappear into the mountains and reinvent themselves. I needed to be someone new, someone who didn't ache for a man who'd never choose me. Asheville was a world away from New York's chaos. The Blue Ridge Mountains loomed like silent guardians, and the streets were alive with galleries and coffee shops. I rented a tiny studio above a bookstore, using the last of my savings. By day, I painted wild, messy canvases that bled with everything I couldn't say. By night, I worked at a local cafe, serving lattes to tourists and locals who didn't know my story. It was a quiet life, but quiet didn't mean peaceful. Ethan haunted me. Every brushstroke, every stranger's laugh, carried echoes of him. I thought I'd escaped, but I underestimated Ethan Caldwell. A month after I vanished, I got a call from an unknown number. I ignored it, but then came the texts, "Where are you? I need to know you're okay." I blocked the number, but new ones kept coming. Then, one night, I found a letter slipped under my door, written in his precise, elegant script, "Julian, I called off the wedding. I can't do this without you. Tell me where you are." My hands shook as I read it, the words tearing open wounds I tried to stitch closed. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Ethan's life was a world I didn't belong in, and I refused to be his secret again. But the letters kept coming, each one more desperate, more raw. He was searching for me, and I didn't know if I was running from him or from myself. One night, 6 months into my new life, I met Sam Rivera at the cafe. He was a potter, with calloused hands and a smile that felt like sunlight after a long winter. He'd come in for coffee, lingering to sketch designs for his next piece. We talked about art, about the mountains, about nothing and everything. He didn't know about Ethan, and I didn't tell him. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of something that wasn't pain. Sam was different from Ethan. Where Ethan was all sharp edges and ambition, Sam was steady, grounded, like the clay he shaped. He invited me to his studio one evening, and I watched him work, his hands coaxing beauty from raw earth. "You're good at hiding," he said, not looking up from his wheel. "But you can't hide from yourself forever." I froze, my heart racing. "What do you mean?" He smiled, wiping clay from his hands. "Your paintings. They're full of someone you're trying to forget." I wanted to deny it, but Sam saw through me. Over the next few weeks, we grew closer. He taught me how to throw pots, his hands guiding mine on the wheel, and I taught him how to mix colors that sang. It wasn't love knot yet, but it was something real, something I could hold on to without fear of it slipping away. But Ethan wasn't done with me. One evening, as I locked up the cafe, I saw a figure across the street, leaning against a lamppost. My heart stopped. It was him, Ethan, in Asheville, his coat dusted with mountain air, his eyes searching for mine. He'd found me. "Julian," Ethan said, his voice a low rumble that shook the quiet street. He stepped forward, his face half lit by the lamppost, and I saw the exhaustion carved into him, dark circles under his eyes, his jaw tight with something unspoken. He looked like a man who'd been chasing ghosts, and I was the ghost he'd caught. I should have run. I should have turned and disappeared into the night like I had before. But my feet stayed rooted, betraying me. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. "I had to find you," he said, taking another step closer. His hands were shoved in his pockets, but I could see them trembling. "You left without a word. Do you know what that did to me?" I laughed, bitter and raw. "What it did to you?" "Ethan, you were about to marry someone else. I was just your dirty little secret." His face crumpled, like I'd struck him. "You were never that," he said, his voice breaking. "You were everything. I called off the wedding, Julian. I told Claire the truth. I told my family. I lost contracts, clients, everything. But I don't care. I need you." His words hit me like a tidal wave, pulling me under. I wanted to believe him, to fall back into the warmth of his promises. But I'd heard them before. I'd built my heart around them, only to watch them crumble. "You don't get to do this," I said, stepping back. "You don't get to show up and unravel my life again." "I'm not here to unravel you," he said, his voice softer now, pleading. I'm here to fix what I broke. I was a coward, Julian. I let my family's expectations, my career, everything come between us. But I'm done hiding. I love you, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving it if you'll let me. I turned away, my throat tight. The mountains loomed in the distance, their silence a stark contrast to the storm in my chest. I thought of Sam, of the life I was starting to build, one where I wasn't someone's shadow. But Ethan's presence was a gravitational pull, and I wasn't sure I could escape it. Over the next few days, Ethan didn't leave. He rented a room at a bed-and-breakfast in town, showing up at the cafe each morning with a quiet determination. He didn't push, didn't demand. He just sat there, sketching in a notebook or reading, his eyes finding mine whenever I looked his way. It was maddening, the way he could still make my heart race with just a glance. Sam noticed. Of course he did. That guy? He said one night as we cleaned up the cafe. He's not just a customer, is he? I sighed, wiping down a counter to avoid his gaze. He's someone from my past. Sam nodded, his hands steady as he stacked cups. You don't owe me your story, Julian. But if he's here to hurt you, I'm not going to stand by and watch. His protectiveness warmed me, but it also complicated things. Sam was real, tangible, a future I could touch. Ethan was a dream I'd already lost once. I didn't know how to choose, or if I even should. One evening, Ethan waited for me outside the cafe, his breath visible in the chilly air. Can we talk? He asked, his voice soft but urgent. Just give me an hour. Please. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We walked to a park nearby, the leaves crunching under our feet. The air smelled of pine and possibility, but my heart was heavy with doubt. Ethan stopped by a bench, his hands fidgeting. I know I don't deserve you, he started, his voice raw. I let you down. I let myself down. But I've spent every day since you left trying to be the man you needed me to be. I crossed my arms, trying to shield myself from his words. And what happens when your family calls? Or your career? You'll go back to hiding me. Ethan, I can't live like that again. He stepped closer, his eyes fierce. I'm not hiding anymore. I told my parents I'm gay. I walked away from the firm. I'm starting over, Julian, and I want to start over with you. My breath caught. This was the Ethan I'd dreamed of, the one who'd choose me over everything else. But dreams have a way of breaking, and I wasn't sure I could trust this one. Sam invited me to a local art festival that weekend, a vibrant chaos of color and music. I went, hoping to clear my head. We wandered through stalls, admiring pottery and paintings, our shoulders brushing as we laughed. For a moment, I felt light, unburdened. But then I saw Ethan across the crowd, his eyes locked on me, a quiet pain in his expression. He didn't approach, but his presence was a weight I couldn't shake. Sam followed my gaze, his jaw tightening. You need to figure this out, Julian, he said, his voice gentle but firm. I like you a lot, but I'm not going to compete with a ghost. He was right. I couldn't keep running from my heart. That night, I went to Ethan's bed and breakfast, my pulse racing as I knocked on his door. He opened it, his shirt untucked, his hair a mess. Julian, he breathed, like my name was a prayer. I need to know, I said, my voice shaking. If I give you another chance, will you break me again? He reached for my hand, his touch warm and familiar. I won't, he said, his eyes steady. I swear it. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But trust is a fragile thing. and mine was still in pieces. The next morning, I woke up in Ethan's room, the sunlight streaming through the window, painting his face in gold. We hadn't done anything but talk hours of raw, unfiltered words, peeling back the layers of hurt and hope between us. He'd told me about the fallout with his family, the way his father had called him a disappointment, the way Claire had cried but let him go. I told him about Asheville, about Sam, about the man I was trying to become. It felt like a confession, like we were finally seeing each other without the shadows. But as I left his room, the weight of reality settled back in. Ethan's promises were beautiful, but they were just words until he proved them. And Sam was still there, steady and real, waiting for me to make a choice. I avoided the cafe that day, needing space to think. I wandered the trails outside Asheville, the mountains a quiet witness to my turmoil. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. Meet me at the studio tonight. I made something for you. I smiled, but my heart twisted. Sam deserved better than half of me. That evening, I went to his studio, the air thick with the scent of clay and glaze. He was there, his hands dusted with earth, a small vase on the table in front of him. It was simple, unglazed, but etched with delicate lines that formed a skyline New York's. I realized with a pang. It's you, Sam said, his voice quiet. The city's in your bones. Julian. I see it in your art, in the way you move. I don't know who that guy is to you, but I know he's part of that skyline. I swallowed hard, my eyes burning. Sam, you don't have to explain. He interrupted, his smile sad but kind. Just be honest with yourself. That's all I'm asking. I left his studio with the vase in my hands, its weight a reminder of the choice I couldn't keep avoiding. Ethan was waiting for me outside, as if he'd known I'd need him. Can we walk? He asked, his voice soft. We ended up by the French Broad River, the water glinting under the moon. Ethan didn't push, didn't plead. He just walked beside me, his presence a quiet anchor. I'm not going back to New York, he said after a while. I'm done with that life. I want to build something new here, with you, if you'll have me. I stopped, turning to face him. And what if I can't trust you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What if I let you in, and you leave again? He took my hands, his grip firm but gentle. Then I'll spend every day proving I won't. I don't expect you to believe me right away, Julian. But I'm not going anywhere. The next week was a blur of tension and tenderness. Ethan stayed in Asheville, taking a job at a local law clinic, helping people who couldn't afford representation. It was a far cry from his corporate life, and I saw the change in him the way he carried himself with a new kind of purpose. He didn't push for more than I could give, but he was there, showing up with coffee, helping me hang my paintings at a local gallery, listening when I needed to talk. Sam, meanwhile, gave me space. He didn't ask about Ethan, didn't pressure me, but I saw the hurt in his eyes every time we crossed paths. It tore at me, knowing I was hurting someone who'd only ever been kind. One night, at a gallery opening for my latest work, everything came to a head. My paintings were bold, raw, full of the chaos of my heart, New York's skyline bleeding into Asheville's mountains. Figures caught between shadow and light. Ethan was there, his pride in me palpable, but so was Sam, standing quietly by a canvas that I knew was about Hema figures shaping clay under a soft dawn. As the night wound down, Sam pulled me aside. I'm leaving for a residency in Santa Fe, he said, his voice steady but heavy. I got the offer last week. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to sway you. My heart sank. Sam, he held up a hand, stopping me. You don't have to choose me, Julian. But you need to choose yourself. Whoever you love, make sure they're worth it. He hugged me, brief but warm, and then he was gone, leaving me with an ache I couldn't name. Ethan found me outside the gallery, my breath visible in the cold night air. "You okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. I shook my head, tears spilling over. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted. "I don't know how to trust you again. I don't know how to let go of Sam. I don't know who I am without all this pain." Ethan pulled me into his arms, his warmth grounding me. "You don't have to have all the answers," he said. "Just let me be here while you figure it out." Months passed, and Asheville became a canvas for something new. Ethan stayed true to his word, building a life that was honest, open, unafraid. He moved into a small house near the river, inviting me over for dinners he cooked himself, laughing when I teased him about his terrible knife skills. We were cautious, rebuilding trust brick by brick. But there was a joy in Ida quiet, hard-won hope. I kept painting, my work growing bolder, more honest. The gallery sold every piece from my last show, and I started teaching art classes at a community center, finding purpose in helping others find their voice. Ethan was there for every step, cheering me on, but he never pushed for more than I was ready to give. It was a kind of love I hadn't known before, one that didn't demand, didn't hide. Sam sent me a postcard from Santa Fe, a simple note wishing me well. I kept it on my desk, a reminder of his kindness, his strength. I missed him, but I knew he was right. I had to choose myself. And in choosing myself, I was learning to choose Ethan, not as a secret, but as a partner. One spring evening, Ethan took me to the park where we'd walked that first night he found me. The air was warm, scented with blooming dogwoods, and the river sparkled under the setting sun. He stopped by the same bench, his hands nervous in his pockets. "Julian," he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion, "I don't want to spend another day without you. I know I messed up. I know I don't deserve you. But I love you, and I want to build a life with you out in the open. No shadows." He pulled out a small ring, simple and silver, nothing like the flashy world he'd left behind. "I'm not asking you to marry Minute yet," he said, a shy smile breaking through. "But I'm asking you to keep this, to know I'm all in, for as long as you'll have me." I took the ring, my heart full in a way it hadn't been in years. "You're still a little spoiled," I teased, my voice catching. "But I think I can handle it." He laughed, pulling me close, and for the first time, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Not in the shadows, not running, but here, with him, in a world we'd built together. Years later, I'd look back on that moment as the start of something real. Ethan and I didn't have a perfect love story. There were fights, doubts, days when the past crept in. But we faced them together, out in the open. No secrets left to spoil us. My paintings hung in galleries across the country, each one a testament to the man I'd become, not just Ethan's, not just Sam's, but mine. The world wasn't always kind. Ethan's family never fully came around, and there were whispers in Asheville, glances that lingered too long. But we held our ground, our love a quiet rebellion against a world that tried to keep us hidden. And every time I doubted, Ethan was there, his hand in mine, reminding me that some loves are worth the fight. I was his spoiled secret once, but I vanished to find myself. And in the end, he found Minute as a secret, but as a partner, a lover, a man who'd learned to love himself enough to love him back.